I am Meredith Hoggett, Montgomery County's Agriculture and Natural Resources Extension Agent. I am for the soil because I am for sustainability of the soil, farming families, and local foods.
It is my pleasure to welcome you to another episode of For the Soil, a Conversation. I'm Jeff Ishii, along with our co-host Eric Benfelt with Virginia Cooperative Extension Community Viability, and Mary Sketch Bryant with the Virginia Soil Health Coalition. My co-host will join us in just a moment, but I wanted to remind everyone of the website forthesoil.org. That's the digit 4, thesoil.org. And across the menu bar at the top of the page, click on Soil Health Champions. I think you will find some very interesting stories there, videos of soil health champions. Once again, at forthesoil.org, the menu bar across the top of the page, just click on Soil Health Champions. And now to this week's podcast with an introduction from Eric Benfelt with Virginia Cooperative Extension.
Yeah, thank you again, Jeff. We're very pleased to have Garland Mason and Liz McMullen with us from Organic Valley Dairy Cooperative, and really want to learn more about the cooperative and the journey towards regenerative agriculture and regenerative food systems. So Garland and Liz, welcome, and like to share more about Organic Valley and its different programs.
Thanks, Eric. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, likewise.
Would love to. I know in the last episode, Garland and Liz, you were talking some about the sustainability practices and the carbon insetting program. Another piece, I know we're really interested in is that, how are those practices then being translated to the consumer? Is Organic Valley doing any work there on, whether the education front or leveraging for producers, the work that they're doing in the marketplace?
Absolutely. So I can answer this. I am part of the marketing team. So what we do is we are very heavily involved in social media. So we have some farmer cam footage that is coming up all the time from different farmers across the United States. They talk about their practices. They talk about what they're doing with their cows. They even do, like a day in my life. They just to give like a peek behind the curtain. And then also we have a lot of our farmers that do interviews and stuff like that for our Rootstock blog, which you can find on organicvalley.coop. And you can learn a lot more about what they're doing on their farm or like specific things. So now we're running into Earth Month. So there'll be like different stories about soil health and earthworms and just everything you could ever think of, which is really cool, just to show like what the consumer, what we're doing, and that we're walking the walk and talking the talk.
And Garland and Liz, also be interested in like how you work with the farmers that have sought organic certification and wanted to join the cooperative. I've had the pleasure of working with some farmers in Rockingham County and the Shenandoah Valley, and it's interesting to hear their stories, but I'd like to have a broader perspective.
So procurement of new farms happens through our regional pool managers. And so that might, Liz, you may know more about this than I do, but my understanding is that our regional pool managers will connect with a farmer when they express interest in transitioning to organic, and they'll start having conversations about what the next 3 years would look like during that transition, and then make a plan for them to join the co-op after that transition has been successful. I think regional pool managers can provide a lot of resources about what organic certification would look like on a farm and what they would need to do to become certified. And then I know they can also connect them with neighboring Organic Valley members to learn more about what kind of practices are successful on Organic Valley farms.
Yes, Garland, that's a great way to explain it. So yeah, the regional pool managers, which are in different parts of the United States. So like there's one up by Maine, there's one in Ohio, there's one in the Pacific Northwest. We have a few here in the Midwest. They are really the person that whoever wants to connect, because obviously farmers love to talk, that they can talk to their pool manager and get more or let's say their neighbor's pool manager and get to know more about the cooperative. And then the pool manager can put you in contact, the farmer in contact with whomever that they want to speak to. Our pool managers are always in contact with all of us that might be working at the headquarters or around the countryside, and we can try to make the transition as easy as possible so they can learn as much as they want and then see if it's a fit for them. We also have actually a lot of different ads in different publications that farmers read. So that's another way that if a farmer sees an ad and maybe they aren't friends with an Organic Valley farmer, there is like a phone number to call, an email address, everything right there that they can be like, hey, I am wondering what this is all about. Tell me more about the grass milk track of Organic Valley. Tell me more about I want to do vegetables, things like that. So we try to make it as easy as possible and try to be available for anybody who would want to possibly become an Organic Valley member.
And I think one thing there are a few reasons that I would mention that folks would be interested in joining Organic Valley as a member. Folks who are currently farming conventionally and are interested in organic or curious about organic are often really interested in animal health and have questions about how organic farmers maintain animal health without the use of antibiotics. And so they're curious about that. Maybe they're seeing a herd health issue on their conventional farm and want to know, more holistic ways of treating those issues. They may be concerned with the amount of inputs they're putting on their land or the amount of pesticides or herbicides they're putting on their land. I know that some farmers in our co-op who transitioned to organic did so because, maybe they were the second or third generation coming up on the farm and they were starting to have kids and thought, I don't think I want my kids to grow up in these fields that are being sprayed with pesticides and herbicides. And so they went ahead and initiated the transition to organic. But then another reason that I think maybe the consumer doesn't always know about with organic is that organic pay price to the farmer is very stable. And particularly Organic Valley's pay price, really since the beginning of the co-op, has been stable and has only really ever increased. And so the conventional milk market can be incredibly volatile, and so it can make planning for conventional dairy farmers really difficult because they don't know what the price will be in 6 months and a year and 10 years. And so making investments on their farm is inherently more risky. But with organic, you can really rely on a stable pay price, which has been shown since the 80s. And so I think that's another avenue where people become curious about organic just to have more stability in their business.
Garland and Liz, kind of going off of those benefits, does Organic Valley provide any technical assistance, or is there a benefit of that knowledge exchange and information as producers are thinking about new practices, even if they're already certified organic?
Yeah, actually, I was just talking to a member on the phone yesterday from Vermont, and she called. And I don't know, Liz, if this has been a slogan in the past for Organic Valley, but we were saying this is more than a milk market. This is really a cooperative that offers like a whole community to our farmers. So we have a vet team at the co-op that has been around really since the beginning, I believe, because in the beginning, in the 80s and early 90s, there were not very many large animal veterinarians that were very familiar with organic practices and farming without the use of antibiotics. And so we have veterinarian on staff who can support farmers and also consult with their veterinarians if they're only familiar with conventional farming. And then we also have a farm resources team. So we have a few folks there who work with certifiers and make sure that everybody's questions about their certification for organic are answered and that they are in compliance, and if they're worried about their compliance, we support them in ensuring that they stay in compliance with organic standards. And then my team, with sustainability, we provide a lot of technical assistance about sustainability practices. We have 3 carbon managers. So these are people who specialize in specific practices and enrolling our members in those practices and getting those practices implemented on their farms. And so they provide a degree of technical assistance for planning. And then we also provide access to technical service providers through the carbon insetting program so that they can get planning and implementation support from experts in their region.
And
I'd
Garland
like,
and oh, go ahead,
uh,
Liz.
sorry, I'd like to add too, is I've been, Garland, that's exactly it. And I've also been talking to farmers before where they're like, we are so glad we don't need to market our products. We just get to be on the land and be with our cows and be, do what we love to do. And then you all can do what you love to do, which I love marketing. I love PR. I would do anything for our farmers and get them on, in Forbes or in their local paper if they want. And so it really does work well all together as a cooperative. We cooperate.
And Garland and Liz, probably over the past 15 to 20 years, there's been more interest in local and regional food markets, food systems, and there's the sort of the initiative of know your food, know your farm. I would be interested to know how Organic Valley sort of approaches that idea of getting to know where your food comes from.
It's so funny that you say that, Eric, because that is definitely what our campaign is right now. It is protecting where your food comes from, where your food comes from, but also knowing where your food comes from. So we like to put our farmers in front of the camera in different ways, or in like a Whole Foods to give different samples out. We have a lot of farmers that like to do that across the country. And just to get to know where your food is coming from, you get to know the farmer that your food is coming from. That has really proven to be an amazing campaign and tactic because you just see the carton on the shelf. You don't understand where that's actually coming from. And so the putting the face with the name in a different, I guess, in a different way is just something that has really resonated with our consumers, and our farmers love talking. So they have a great time talking with the consumers that are basically fangirling over, these farmers because they know that the farmers are treating their animals right and they're getting good food because of it.
In Garland and Liz, what are you seeing have you seen any change over the years in farmers' interest in soil health? Are you seeing that is, from economic returns, resilience? Is there more interest in focusing on building up the health of the soil?
Well, I think organic farmers have always needed to be interested in soil health because they don't have access to the chemical fertilizers that conventional farmers can use. And so they really have had to get creative since the 80s when the organic movement began in like a certified way. They've had to kind of come up with these practices that regenerate soil health and regenerate fertility in the soil. So I think it's been happening since farmers began the co-op, right? That they have been focused on soil health. I talk to a lot of farmers who are interested in, in my grant writing role, in purchasing pieces of equipment that will help them implement a more like a larger scale practice, maybe like they're going to get a no-till drill, or they're going to get a roller crimper or some piece of machinery that is going to allow them to discontinue tillage. And so that is something that I'm seeing farmers become more and more interested in, especially as those technologies become more and more widespread and more accessible. So I think there's that element of it, is that folks are starting to make these investments in implements for soil health. I'll also say, I just thinking of, a farmer that I talked to yesterday in West Virginia. He put in a solid liquid separation system for his manure last year. And then he began composting the solids that were separated. And now we're going to work on a grant that allows him to purchase a biochar boiler. So he's going to be producing his own biochar to mix in with his compost and then use that on his cropland and pastures. And so he's actually just farming just across the Virginia border, not actually too far from where I live in Giles County. And he's doing some really exciting things. And I think something that was really inspiring to him is that, by putting this really good compost mixed with biochar that he produced on his farm back into the soil, that he was like, this will last for hundreds of years, over 100 years, this carbon will stay in the soil. And so it was really exciting to talk to him. His daughter is helping him farm and planning to take over the farm eventually. And so it's exciting for him to think this could be my great grandkids' soil health, not just my own. So I think that was really inspiring to hear from him.
Well, Garland and Liz, we're so fortunate to have you join us today. And for our listeners who want to learn a little bit more about Organic Valley Cooperative, the website again is organicvalley.coop. And there's a number of resources there to, talking more about the history of the cooperative as well as recipes and farmer stories. So thank you again, Garland and Liz. We were very appreciative of your time and your sharing.
Thanks. It's been fun.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
For the Soil, a conversation is made possible with funding support from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and the Agua Fund. Other partners include the U.S. Department of Agriculture's NRCS, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, Virginia Cooperative Extension, Virginia State University, Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation, and partners of the Virginia Soil Health Coalition. Views expressed on this podcast are those of each individual guest. To download a copy of this or any other episode, visit the website forthesoil.org. And if you have a specific question about soil health, call your local extension office, your local USDA service center, or a soil and water conservation district office. Music used during today's program was provided courtesy of the Flip Charts, all rights reserved. For the Soil, a conversation is produced by On the Farm Radio in collaboration with Virginia Tech. I'm your host, Jeff Ishii.